I, 34 am. Never thought I'd be typing these words on Reddit of all places, but I'm desperate for advice and have no one else to turn to. My wife Sarah, 32F, and I have been married for 5 years. Our relationship has always had its ups and downs, but we've managed to work through our issues. Until now. 3 weeks ago, Sarah told me she's pregnant. Initially, I was ecstatic. We'd talked about having kids before, and while we hadn't been actively trying, we weren't exactly being careful either. I thought we were on the same page. I started daydreaming about teaching my kid to play baseball, taking family vacations, all the things my own dad did with me. But my excitement lasted exactly 2 days. That's when Sarah sat me down and told me she wants to terminate the pregnancy. I was blindsided. She said she's not ready for motherhood, that her career is taking off, she recently got promoted at her marketing firm, and that she's realized she might not want children at all. I tried to have a calm discussion about it. I suggested we could make it work. I'd take on more childcare responsibilities, we could hire help. Maybe she could negotiate flexible working hours. But Sarah was adamant. She said her mind was made up, and she was only telling me out of courtesy. That's when our arguments started. I admit I wasn't handling it well. I kept trying to convince her, probably too forcefully. I told her I'd always dreamed of being a father, that this might be our only chance. I even suggested she could sign away parental rights, and I'd raise the child myself, which I now realize was insensitive to the physical reality of pregnancy. Last night, things escalated. Sarah told me she's made an appointment at a clinic for next week. When I tried to talk about it again, she snapped and said, "You have no legal say in this. If you keep trying to control my body, I'll leave you and make sure everyone knows why." She even threatened to tell our friends and family that I was being emotionally abusive by trying to force her to continue an unwanted pregnancy. I'm devastated and confused. I understand it's her body and legally her choice, but this is my child too. I feel like I should have some input in the decision, even if the final choice is hers. I love Sarah and don't want our marriage to end, but I don't know if I can forgive her if she goes through with this. Am I being unreasonable? Is there any compromise possible here? Has anyone been through something similar? I'm sleeping in the guest room now, and we're barely speaking. The appointment is in 5 days, and I feel like I'm watching a timer count down to the end of my dreams of fatherhood and possibly my marriage. Update. I want to thank everyone who's commented so far. I'm reading everything and trying to process all perspectives. Thank you all for your comments on my previous post. A lot has happened in the past few days, and I wanted to give an update. After reading your responses, I realized I needed to have a real conversation with Sarah without letting my emotions take over. I asked if we could talk, truly talk, without accusations or ultimatums. She agreed, and we sat down with cups of tea last night. I started by apologizing for how I'd been acting. I told her I understand that it's her body and ultimately her choice, but asked if she could help me understand her perspective better. She seemed relieved that I wasn't going to fight her on it again. What followed was probably the most honest conversation we've had in years. Sarah explained that she's terrified of losing herself to motherhood. Her own mother gave up a promising career to raise her and her siblings, and ended up deeply depressed and resentful. Sarah has worked incredibly hard to get where she is professionally, and the thought of putting that on hold or scaling back fills her with genuine panic. She also revealed something I hadn't known. She's been having serious doubts about our marriage for the past year. Not because she doesn't love me, but because she's been sensing we want different futures. She admitted she's been avoiding the kids conversation because she knew how much being a father meant to me, and she was afraid of losing me. The pregnancy forced the issue. She said she felt trapped. Either have a child she's not ready for to keep me happy, or lose me by having the abortion. When I suggested raising the child myself, it only confirmed her fears that our paths were diverging. I was devastated to hear about her doubts, but also grateful for her honesty. I shared my own feelings, my deep desire to be a father, my fear that I might resent her if she terminated the pregnancy, and my confusion about where this leaves us as a couple. We cried together for a long time. There were no easy answers, and we both realized we were at a crossroads. This morning, Sarah asked if I would come with her to speak to a marriage counselor before her appointment at the clinic. She said she's willing to postpone the abortion by 1 week to give us time to work through this with professional help. I agreed immediately. I'm still holding on to hope that maybe, with counseling, Sarah might change her mind about the pregnancy. But I'm also trying to prepare myself for the reality that she probably won't. And beyond the immediate question of this pregnancy, we need to figure out if we can find a way forward together when we want such different things. Some of you suggested that this might be the end of our marriage regardless of what happens with the pregnancy, and you might be right. The thought breaks my heart, but I'm trying to be realistic. If Sarah truly doesn't want children and I do, is there any compromise that wouldn't leave one of us sacrificing something fundamental? The counseling appointment is tomorrow. I'm terrified but also relieved that we're at least talking openly now. Whatever happens, I want to handle this with as much grace and compassion as possible, even though it feels like my world is falling apart. The counseling session was intense but illuminating. Our therapist, Dr. Mitchell, created a safe space for both of us to express our feelings without judgment. Sarah spoke about her terror of repeating her mother's life, watching dreams fade away while resentment grew. I talked about my fears of never experiencing fatherhood and the grief I was already feeling for the child I might never know. Dr. Mitchell helped us see that we were both operating from places of fear rather than making clear-headed decisions. She suggested we each write letters to our future selves, Sarah imagining life if she continued the pregnancy, me imagining life if she didn't. We weren't to share these letters with each other, just use them as tools for self-reflection. That exercise changed everything. When I forced myself to truly imagine a future without this specific pregnancy, not without children ever, but without this particular chance at fatherhood, I realized something. My desperation wasn't just about becoming a father. It was wrapped up in feeling like I was losing control. Like many of you pointed out in comments, I was focusing on what I was losing rather than on what Sarah was going through. Sarah had her own revelation. After writing her letter, she told me she realized she wasn't against motherhood entirely. She was terrified of being forced into it before she felt ready, and on someone else's timeline. The pregnancy had triggered all her worst fears about losing her identity. We had 4 more sessions over the next 10 days. During that time, we also sought individual therapy. Through those conversations, we both gained clarity. I realized I've been clinging to an idealized version of fatherhood partly because my own father died when I was young. I've been chasing that connection, trying to recreate what I lost. Sarah recognized that her mother's unhappiness wasn't solely because of having children, but because she had no support system and a husband who didn't participate equally in parenting. Last Friday, Sarah went through with the abortion. I drove her to the clinic and waited for her. It was one of the hardest days of my life, but I knew it was the right decision for us right now. I held her hand when we got home, and we both mourned what might have been. Here's where we've landed. We're staying together. We love each other. And now that we've had these difficult conversations, our relationship feels more honest than it has in years. We've agreed to revisit the question of children in 1 year. Sarah isn't promising she'll want kids then, and I'm not promising I'll be okay if she doesn't. But we're committing to continued counseling and honest communication. I've also realized that there are many ways to be a father figure. I've signed up to be a big brother mentor to a 10-year-old boy whose dad isn't in the picture. It's not the same as having my own child, but it's fulfilling in ways I didn't expect. This experience has been painful beyond words, but it's forced us to confront issues we might have avoided for years. I don't know what the future holds for us, but whatever happens, I'm grateful for the growth this crisis has sparked in both of us. Thank you to everyone who shared their stories and offered advice. To those who shared similar experiences from both sides of this impossible situation, your perspectives helped more than you know.